What's going on, everybody? Welcome into Group Chat Football Live. I'm Peter Ariz alongside D Money, and this is our daily college football show talking the biggest news in recruiting, transfers, coaching movement, and much more. And today we're talking about Ohio State, the reigning national champs. And we're going to get into the top 5 newcomers that we are excited about, recruits, transfers, and we're going to just basically look at this. They're already loaded roster, right? How did they get better? They only took 6 transfers this offseason. So we have a couple of those, few of those guys on the list, right? You'd expect them to take the best of the best, of course, and then a couple high school guys. So let's get into the list. Starting with tight end Max Klare from Purdue, a guy that we did videos on months back when he was going through his process and became big fans of him as a player. Really big, athletic, nimble tight end, baseball background as well, and someone who really developed nicely at Purdue.
Yeah, he was the third best tight end in the Big Ten. You say, okay, that's pretty good. Then you look at who the first two were. Tyler Warren, Colson Loveland, first-round picks, maybe in top 15 picks. So no shame there. Now that he is at Ohio State, you're talking about somebody getting All-American buzz. ESPN listed him as a preseason first-team All-American. 6'4", 240, originally from Guilford, Indiana, went to Cincinnati St. Xavier High School, high level of football in Cincinnati. Of course, went back home to Indiana to college at Purdue. Now here at Ohio State. Last year, 51 catches, 685 yards, 4 touchdowns, 2 years of eligibility remaining. And, watching this guy, his fluidity, his ability to move, some of the stuff, just go back to high school and seeing him play almost like a wide receiver. Ohio State has had really good tight ends, but they were very much dual threat, kind of inline tight ends, right? Guys that are going to block inline and then give you some receiving ability. I think Max Klare, more than anybody we've seen at Ohio State in recent years, is a pure receiving option. Look at the quickness there after the catch. This is Big Ten level. So this is not, against FCS competition. This is Illinois, with a really good team last year. So I think with Clair, this is going to be the best receiving tight end. I'm not saying the best tight end. They've had some very good ones that can block and can catch. As far as pure receiving tight end, I think this is the best weapon that they've had under Ryan Day.
Yeah, really. I mean, you see his agility there in the open field. Really a nice weapon to add to this offense. Like you said, they haven't really used one too heavily the last few years here. So to me, it makes that offense that much more dangerous. Of course, we got to see who's gonna win this quarterback competition. But really nice weapon to add. Another guy here who you and I are huge fans of, his versatility. We've watched him since high school here in South Florida, and that is transfer running back, listed as a running back, but I think he can do a whole lot more than just run the football, and that's CJ Donaldson from West Virginia. When you watch him play, it's not going to be the most beautiful thing. He's not going to be running by people, but he just has a patient style about him that he weaves in and out of the defense that consistently picks up yards, and a guy who has a nose for the end zone.
Yeah, this is not a siege. This is not a Quinton Junkins. I'm sorry. This is not a Trayvon Henderson. This is somebody who is going to be a physical runner, but also a very versatile football player. So 6'2", 238. Like you mentioned, we watched him in Miami at Gulliver. Also watched him at Hialeah when he transferred. The expectation with Donaldson was always that he would be a tight end H-back type at the next level. This is somebody who played in the 7-on-7 circuit pretty much exclusively as a tight end H-back. That was where he had most of his production in high school. When he moved to running back at West Virginia, it was somewhat of a surprise to folks who had watched his career, but he was very successful. 3 years, 2,058 yards, 30 touchdowns. Last year, 734 yards, 11 touchdowns. Did most of his damage, or his most damage, I should say, in short yardage, in the red zone, with that size, with that toughness, but he does have some finesse to him. I think if you're Ohio State, a team with a ton of talent, you brought in, Bo Jackson, you brought in some really good runners from the high school level. I think with a guy like this, yes, you use him in short yardage. Yes, you use him in the red zone. Yes, you use him when maybe you want to bleed a game out and use a physical back. But I would use him in terms of his receiving ability much more than we saw at West Virginia. He has that to his game. You have multiple options at Ohio State. So use him to find mismatches because there are
Right there, you see it. Yeah.
there's not that many. And it really, that should be all over his highlight. I think the fact that it isn't is because West Virginia just didn't have the option, the depth of talent to move him around. Ohio State does. And I would put this guy in a position to create mismatches and cause problems with his route running and hands.
Yeah, and he's got quick feet too, man. I think he's big, right? And in the open field, sometimes defenders they're bracing for him to lower his shoulder, and he's got really good feet for his size. So, like you said, mismatch issue without a doubt. Him and Max Klare together. I mean, a lot of weapons for Brian Hartline as a new offensive coordinator to mess around with there. Now, finishing out the trio of transfer names that we have here, and quite frankly, maybe the most important in terms of the position he plays, and that's offensive tackle Ethan Onianwa from Rice. I'll play a video here from him pregame, and you'll see why he looks exactly how you want your left tackle to look. A guy who was very successful at Rice, obviously taking a big step up in competition here, but by the numbers, wasn't a guy who allowed many pressures or sacks. 1 sack in 294 pass blocking snaps last season. And again, I'm going to show this video here in a second. You'll see why he's a scary dude, and I think will fit right in terms of a physical standpoint there in the Big Ten.
Yeah, I think I know what you're going to play. Make sure the sound is off on that one.
Yeah, I am.
Yeah, no, he is a live wire. It's funny, man. Watching him look at his high school profile. He's from Katy, Texas. And when you look at his high school profile, he looks like a child. I mean, he really looked like he was like 15 years old. I wonder how young he is now for his grade, because he looked very, very young. He was a nobody recruit out of high school, 178th player in Texas, developed clearly into this grown man, 6'6", 345, like you mentioned, 1 sack and 294 pass blocking snaps, 34 starts in his career, 1 year eligibility remaining. I don't know, watching this guy, how he was not rated up there with the Isaiah Worlds and who signed with Oregon as that 5-star type tackle transfer, because this guy looks like an NFL tackle to me. Obviously, the size is there. I watched every snap of his against Texas. I think at first he was a little slow up the ball, just kind of tight. But once he loosened up, he got to the second level with ease, very good quickness. Of course, he's got great size. Once he got into guys, he was able to drive them. And he's coordinated. I wouldn't say he's a freak athlete, but he's a smooth, coordinated athlete. So to me, he is somebody who should have been ranked up there with Isaiah World, who went to Oregon, as an elite NFL-type tackle transferring schools. I expect him to be he has 1 year left, but then spend 1 year as a starter at Ohio State, whether it's the left or the right, and then move on to the NFL. Very, very underrated pickup. There's a reason why Ohio State went to Rice to get this guy. He is a high-level Big Ten tackle.
So let's get into a couple of these high school guys that we are very, very excited about. And look, sometimes with these top 5 videos, we kind of go off the board a little bit. We talk about players who aren't necessarily as hyped up in the media, don't have the star rankings, but we're going chalk here. We're going with the 2 highest rated players, in this Ohio State class. We'll start on the defensive side of the football with Devin Sanchez, cornerback out of the Houston area, 6'2", 180, but I mean, has the frame. Really, when I watch this guy, as I'll play the huddle here in a second, the ball skills are through the roof. I mean, you see a lot of these young defensive backs coming out of high school who are there from a physical standpoint. They're ready. They can run. They can tackle. They can cover. They have the length, all of that. Devin Sanchez is a guy that looks like the ball's in the air. He's going to find it. And that gets you on the field early.
Yeah, I saw this guy up close and personal at OT7 finals in Tampa this past summer. And there were a lot of power forward defensive backs on the field, and he was head and shoulders above. The only guy in the conversation with him was Ben Hanks, the top 100 player who signed with Florida. And even then, Sanchez just hard to compare because his size, he's 6'2", he's 180, but then he also runs a 10.69 in the 100 meters. And then the fluidity, which you see on the tape, and like you were talking about, the ball skills. He had 2 interceptions when I was there at the OT7 playing for South Florida Express, even though he is from Houston, Texas. So, to me, this guy is not exactly breaking news here. He's the highest rated cornerback to sign with the Buckeyes in more than 20 years. He's the number 1 corner in the country. But I think this guy is the next in line as far as first round Ohio State defensive backs. Denzel Burke's off to the NFL. I think there's an opportunity for this guy to start as a true freshman, which is saying a lot. But, I mean, you look at some of these super talented guys, the Derek Stingley's of the world, the Pat Surtains of the world. Those guys start right away. And I would put this guy in that same exact category just because of the size, speed, fluidity. He's in a big program. There's really, at North Shore in Houston, Texas, there's really nothing about his profile that is below excellent.
Yeah, and you see him here. You look at the physicality. I mean, that gets you on the field right away, without a doubt. I mean, that's elite stuff there. So, Devin Sanchez, again, we didn't really have to put our scouting glasses on for that one. It jumps out at you. And look, can Ohio State 2 years in a row have pretty much the best freshman in the country? I mean, obviously Jeremiah Smith last season. Devin Sanchez, I think, even though he's not an offensive player, obviously those guys are going to be in the headlines because they score the touchdowns. But I think Sanchez is going to make some pretty eye-opening plays next season.
No question.
So the other side of the ball, quarterback position, Tavien St. Clair. I mean, this has to be maybe the biggest no-brainer on this list from the quarterback spot, a guy from Ohio. So, has been Ohio State fans have known about this guy for a while. 5-star quarterback. And I mean, just a total monster from a physical standpoint. 6'4", 225, big arm. He checks all the boxes and from what you're looking for from a 5-star quarterback.
Won the accuracy competition at the Elite 11. I think in camps in general, just very, very polished. To me, I know that there's a tendency to say Julian Saint is the overwhelming favorite to win that job in Ohio State. And I get it. He was there last year, but he doesn't have a ton of experience, right? I mean, last year was the Will Howard show. Plus you had Devin Brown. So it's not like Julian Saint is Arch Manning where he's already played a ton and you just hand him the job. He's not that much different boat than St. Clair coming in as a true freshman. You compare the players, they're very different players. Saint, quick mind, in terms of like just having been very productive at a high level of football, quick passer, great accuracy, not the most impressive physical traits. St. Clair is a physical prototype. He threw it beautifully in camps, and from all indications, very smart guy. Didn't play at the same level of competition. I think the processing is at the same level, not because he's not capable of it, just because he hasn't had to face those kind of defenses. You're talking about he's from Bellefontaine, Ohio, West Central Ohio, so small town competition. Last year, 166 out of 224 passing, 2,536 yards, about 68% passing, 29 touchdowns, 4 picks. Ran a little bit, 9 touchdowns, but not a runner. So how quickly is he going to adapt to the speed of the game? That's one area where I think Saint really excels, is just that quick processing from having played at that high level of football for so long. If this guy can process anywhere close to Saint, his physical traits are just significantly better. I think Saint, when you talk about Ohio State standards, is kind of on the low end of what you'd accept from a physical trait standpoint. I know they were rated similarly out of high school as 5 stars, but I think the physical tools from St. Clair are much closer to what you expect from an Ohio State quarterback than Saint. Devin Brown's gone. He's in Cal. Ethan Onan, South Carolina. So it's really just Saint, Lincoln Kienholz, and St. Clair. He's going to have a huge opportunity to play here in spring.
Look, as you saw from this video, the rich get richer. Obviously, Ohio State needs to replace the quarterback, as we just said there. Maybe we do a video on that in the near future. But you're living good if you're an Ohio State fan right now. And Ryan Day has reloaded once again. So we'll see what happens this spring with that quarterback battle. Should be very, very interesting. Remember to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you like this content. Ohio State fans, and we cover programs across the country. So make sure to hit that like and subscribe so you don't miss any of our content. Thank you all for watching today.